Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Holmes coming at you for the RBLR Sports podcast. I am here tonight to cover the Rowdies, as I usually am, and I am here tonight with my usual co-host, Carlos. How are you doing, Carlos, this evening?
I'm well, James. I'm well. I am dealing with a unbelievably gray day in Arlington, Virginia. It has been the same color in the sky since about 5 a.m. And it continues to be just a really dreary, gray kind of day. Eureka. I saw a video of, and this is a random wrestling tangent for about 15 seconds here. Saw a video of Jeff Hardy on my Twitter feed right before we started recording this. What a god, by the way. Reminded me to start doing a little bit of this action. If you're listening to this without the video, you have no clue what I'm doing. And Eureka recognized that one. So shout out to Eureka and shout out to Jeff Hardy on this random Tuesday afternoon. James, you know what? I was trying to think about like a Jeff Hardy wrestling transition into the Rowdies, but there really isn't one off of the dome. Let's just move on. The Rowdies played this weekend. I got to be there. It was a really good time. I've said this, before the game, whether we were in last place or first place. It's always a blessing to get to see my favorite club play soccer, whether it's home, but especially when it's away, and especially when it's an away game that is within driving distance of me. Mm-hmm. So never taking that for granted. I'll be there, regardless of whether we're on 0 points on the year or a million points. So always exciting to see my local team get some action close by. It was a crazy game, James, as you well are aware, and I'm sure as everybody here listening is aware. We'll talk about that later on. So crazy weekend of Rowdy soccer, some big news being finalized today on the ownership front. We can talk about it just a little bit later on. Not a ton of breaking news there, but just some stuff to delve into. James, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening? What I'm sure is a better looking sky in Tampa, Florida, than it is over here in Arlington.
Well, if by that you mean sunnier, then you are definitely correct. I'm doing well. And if anybody who is watching this is wondering if I'm at a new angle, I do have a slightly bigger desk. It is definitely quite different, but it is slightly bigger. So that's why I am probably just a little off from what you're used to. So one way or another, we will persevere, folks. We will get through, new desk or not. And we will be able to talk about the Rowdies. Although, to be perfectly honest, Carlos, this one, I think you described this one before we got started as feeling like a loss. I don't even know where to feel about this past game. It was crazy to watch. And the ending was obviously over the top for anybody who is unaware. We're going to get into it, but I think the vast majority of the shots that were taken over the course of this game were taken in the last. We're all taken in stoppage time, I'm pretty sure. So we'll have to talk about why that is and what the hell where we are left at this point, because we only have 4 games left, and folks, if you don't know, that's not good for us. The playoffs are too close for where we currently sit. So we might as well jump in at this point. Yeah, the Rowdies left it late, as I said, to draw with Loudoun United, scoring with one of the last chances of the game, also in stoppage time, after Loudoun United scored twice in stoppage time to first level the game and then take the lead. Topsy-turvy. We will have to preview a game against Monterey Bay. That is at home, luckily, so maybe we'll get some points out of that. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, or subscribe on any major podcast platform, of course, wherever you are. And please follow us on all your social medias. Wherever social media you use, we are almost certainly there as well, at RBLR Sports. Check us out. Give us a follow. If you want to follow the individual ones, RBLR Rowdies is obviously Carlos and me, but we'll see you on the interwebs. Carlos, can we get started first with the quick recap before we fall into whatever it leads us to?
Yeah, but I think whatever, drawn out as a word is a good description for what this game was.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell this game was. James, in front of a crowd of 2,640 people on a lovely evening in Leesburg, Virginia. By the way, cute little town if you ever get a chance to come over to Loudoun County. Leesburg, historic, very nice little downtown. Very, old America, colonial kind of feel to it. Cool. It's a cool town. Just come check it out next time we play against Loudoun United, hopefully with a better result next time we're over here. Spoiler alert, Rowdies and Loudoun finished this one drawed up 2-2. James, the lineup consisted of Hamid in net making his return to his hometown area, not his hometown, but to the DMV regional area.
Yeah.
Where he's very comfortable, obviously a DC United legend. Loudoun United, of course, not affiliated anymore officially with DC United, but certainly back into a part of the country where he is known and loved. In front of him, you have White, Lasso, and Guillen. Out at the right wing back spot, you had Juan Carlos Azócar. Out at the left wing back spot, Blake Bodley. In between them, you had Crisostomo, Mendez, who had a great game. We'll talk about him, I'm sure, later on in this one. And up top, you had Rubens Pasillas, Manu Arteaga, with Paul Marie in that attacking mid kind of role that he has blossomed into with the Tampa Bay Rowdies. We know he's on loan, but I'm going to throw this out there. Let's do whatever we can to keep him around forever.
I think we said that last week. Let's get the petition going like right now.
I'm gonna reiterate that. I don't know how much need San Jose has for him at this point, although they are awful every year, so I'm sure they could use all the help they can get. I don't know why they got rid of him and sent him over to the Rowdies for this back portion of the year, but I hope he stays with us for a long time. James, this game was a wild one, as we've talked about multiple times already. Loudoun United outplayed the Rowdies flat out for a majority of this game.
I think that's perfectly fair to say.
Yeah, they outplayed us. They hit the crossbar twice. Bill Hamid was forced to make multiple big saves in this one. Something about being back in the DMV unlocked some of his vintage Bill Hamid performances. He kept us in this game at multiple points here. It wouldn't be until the 57th minute that the first goal of the game would fall, and it would be off of a penalty that Loudoun United conceded off of a Rowdies counterattack. A really silly penalty that honestly could have been a red card. I'm frankly a little shocked it wasn't a red card. It was a last man foul, and it was in the box. But I digress. Manu Arteaga puts away that penalty to go up 1-0. Rowdies hold on to that lead for a good 30-plus minutes, and it wouldn't be until the 91st minute that goal gets neutralized with another penalty conceded from Juan Carlos Azócar's stumble, kind of tumble into tumble's a good word for it, tumble into the Loudoun United attacker. I saw some people on Rowdy social medias arguing that it was a soft call. It was the right call. I think I can confidently say that it was a silly penalty. He tripped, he fell, he stumbled into the Loudoun attacker. Abu Kora puts that away in the 91st minute to equalize it. 5 minutes later, James, there would be a second stoppage time goal for Loudoun United off of a wide open attack. Tubbs puts it away in the 96th minute. What an incredible name, by the way, Tubbs, to take the lead 2-1. Of course, the Rowdies would have one more goal left in them, because what the hell was this game? What
even happened?
Super sub Joey Skinner comes in the 77th minute, scores the equalizer in the 99th minute of play. The Rowdies would actually have two more clear-cut, beautiful looks right in front of goal that I wanted to claw my eyes out because they didn't actually go in. Woobs did not have his best performance in this one. Two opportunities on the back end to put this one away for the Rowdies that unfortunately did not fall in the Loudoun net. Crazy game for the Rowdies, James. Crazy game for Loudoun United, of course, as well. This one finishes 2-2 in what was, I guess, maybe the game of the week for the USL. We've talked about how, in some sense, in some ways, this feels like a loss, and we can break it down a little bit, or at least I can give my explanation for why I'm feeling that way. But James, it was a wild one. I think that's where we can leave this quick recap for now. Let's talk about the important part here, the table in the USL Championship. Of course, out west. I'm going to start out west real quick. I'll flip it for just a second. It's still crazy tight, crazy chaotic. Tulsa is still in first place, with 47 points, 6 points clear of second place Sacramento. Of course, when we need FC Tulsa to do us a favor, they inevitably lose 2-1 to one of our playoff competitors in the 11. Didn't see that one coming, honestly. Second place Sacramento, third place New Mexico United on 40 points, fourth place San Antonio on 37 points. You make your way down the table, and everyone is within just a few points of each other. With 4 games left to play, that playoff race, particularly in the middle of the playoff positions and the bottom of the playoff positions, is continuing to be a bloodbath. It already is, but some of these games on the back end are going to be really fun to watch if you're a neutral when it comes to these Western Conference teams. In the Eastern Conference, James, nothing surprising here. Louisville and Charleston are still in first and second place, 63 points and 55 points respectively. North Carolina, 15 points behind in third place with 40 points. Loudoun United in fourth place with 39 points. Hartford Athletic is playing some of the best soccer out of anyone in the league. You'll remember that
who saw that coming?
They were awful, James, for the first half and some of this season.
Yeah.
Of course, the Rowdies would go in there and give them one of their last, real losses of the year. It feels like when we went to Hartford, beat them 1-0 in a game that we arguably shouldn't have won. Ever since then, they have been unstoppable. Win, draw, win. Only 2 losses since then. It's ridiculous. If you'll recall, that was back in July. So Hartford's playing insane soccer. You're going to have to keep a real close eye on them going into the playoffs. They could be one of these bubble teams that sneaks in and makes a really impressive run because they're just playing out of their minds right now. Pittsburgh in 37th, but we'll hone in here on the 7th and 8th place teams in the conference because that's where we are most concerned. Detroit City has 32 points. Indy 11 also has 32 points. Rhode Island is in 9th place with 31, and we are in 10th place with 27 points. If you're not good at math, that means we're 5 points out of playoff position with one team in 9th place ahead of us, also fighting for that playoff spot.
Yeah.
Things are getting complicated here. I'm not going to say there's not a chance anymore, but we really did need these 3 points this weekend. We'll talk about the outlook in just a second. Obviously, a big game this weekend, and then probably the biggest of these last 4 games the following weekend in Rhode Island against one of our direct competitors for this playoff spot. James, that was a long-winded, quick recap, but there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot happening on the back end of the year here. Let's talk about the chaos that was this game. And then we can talk a bit more about the outlook for these last 4 games. Obviously, the playoff positioning, our opponents for this playoff position in 8th place that we're looking to reach. But again, let's hone in here on this Loudoun United game for just a little bit because it deserves a bit of focus. I think you noted well in our document here how we should open the conversation. What the hell happened in this game? What's going on? What happened? There's so many things. There's so much to talk about here. There's a bunch of late goals. Obviously, 3 out of the 4 goals in this game were in stoppage time. Let's just start with, I don't know, maybe the first half, James. Is that a good place to start? It was the least chaotic of the 2 halves, right? So maybe we can kind of hone in and start well on the first half. Loudoun United outplaying the Rowdies in that first half. Is that a good way to characterize what happened here?
Yeah, I think that the Loudoun United actually outplayed the Rowdies for the majority of the game, sadly, but I do think that it was maybe more, well, with the goals, obviously, that made it more pronounced in the first half because we scored in the second, and I don't know how many chances we had at all in the first half, Carlos. I don't remember offhand if there was something, but I think Loudoun hit the post twice in the first half and then again in the in the second half. But meant to say 2 times in the first and another time in the second half. So I might be getting that wrong. Either way, yeah, Loudoun United, I really think they probably deserved the 3 points if you're going to look at it that way. However, I think that we had put ourselves in a position to get those 3 points, to earn them. And it really sucks that we ultimately did not, and that we left with just one, because as we've noted, and we're going to talk about this more later on, but the implications for playoffs are, of course, very, very bad here. We're going to talk about that in particular when we get into the preview, because that's obviously where we need to go next to get 3 points. But yeah, a quick look at the stats overall. This is not just the first half, but 61% to 39% possession in favor of Loudoun United. This one I found a little more interesting is the shots. 23 total shots for Loudoun United versus our 16. So actually we got a good number there. Shots on target 7 to 5. I mean, this was I think that the way that you could describe this game is probably a poor defensive game, right? And that's, I guess, poor on both sides here. But yeah, it was not the best day for the Rowdies at the office at the back. I think Bill Hamid kept us in this game longer than we probably should have been in the game. And, if you look at the back line, Lawrence White, Forrest Lasso, Aaron Guillen. Aaron Guillen went off in the 90th minute for Luis Alvarez when we were pushing for that. I should say the 90th minute, the 90th plus 7 minutes, when we were pushing to try and get a second goal and get at least a point out of this one. So I don't know. Those players did not cover themselves in glory again. I think Bill Hamid could have done better possibly on one of the goals, but otherwise he had a stellar game. Truly a very, very good game. I think I was watching the highlights again just to refresh my memory from when I first watched the game before we started, and I think that the commentator used the phrase "rolling back the ears." That's kind of how I felt for Bill Hamid. He made himself really big in a lot of moments, and I don't think that we would have been in this game for as long as we were if he had not been there, because sadly the players ahead of him just let him down. We're going to talk about this more in the second half, but Wana Sokar's defensive liabilities, we've discussed this on numerous occasions, and that continued. Blake Bodley, I don't think was particularly at fault for anything on the defensive side, but Danny Crisostomo and Alex Mendez, those are the two central midfielders for the most part. And then Paul Marie, who is a more defensive player generally. He came off before Loudoun United got their 2 goals, but it's not like he was playing in a defensive role. So when you look at who is playing for us defensively, and I guess who also is available, because coming off the bench, we had Joey Skinner, and then Robert Castellanos and Thomas Van Keizil were on the bench. Maybe they gave themselves the best chance moving forward just by not playing in this game. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know. The Rowdies defensively have been particularly shaky. I guess the good side of this is that at the moment we do have a pretty damn good attacking unit, and most of that has been headed so far, spearheaded so far by Paul Marie, not in this particular game, but he made up for the fact that we had started off so poorly on the other side of the field. And that's, I don't know how we're going to fix that between now and, let's say, November, when the playoffs are supposed to start. But if we're going to get into the playoffs, I don't know what, but I feel like something has to change on the defensive side. And I really couldn't tell you what that is at this point.
Yeah. Your answer, your question about what we can change defensively, or if we can change anything defensively, like quick enough to be, in form for the playoffs,
viable.
Like I'm not sure you can, right? Like, I don't know how much you can do in these next 4 weeks, right, to really significantly change something on the back line, or just not even just the back line, but collectively as a team, how you defend. If you look at this game, there's obviously a good number of defensive breakdowns here because, we mentioned the 2 crossbars that Loudoun hits. There's one at the end of the first half, and then there's one towards the beginning of the first half, or the second half.
Thank you for correcting that.
At the end of the first half, Lorian Below was wide open on the back post. This comes after a free kick. The ball falls to the top of the box. The entirety of the Tampa Bay Rowdies unit, not just the back line, the entirety of the Tampa Bay Rowdies squad just shifts to the left side of the field where the ball was going initially, and leaves the entire far post unguarded, unprotected. Like there was a ridiculous amount of space between the nearest Rowdy and the Loudon player, Florian below, that got on the end of that header that eventually hit the crossbar over Bill Hamid. If that goes in, there's nothing Bill can do there, truly. Like I think, like you said, there was people in front of him that let him down. And in this case, I don't even know who to point to because it was the entire Rowdy squad. Like everyone shifted way too far out to the left side of the field at this point. And I'm just referencing this one specific play that I went back and saw on Twitter. Bill had to make an incredible save in like the 8th minute, right off the bat, straight out of the gates. He had to make a save on what was essentially a 2-on-1 opportunity by Ordonez. Ordonez had a wide open goal. This is Kimi Ordonez, right? Yeah. And Bill Hamid makes a great just positioning type of save. He's just in the right place at the right time. Reaction time was good there, but just was perfectly in front of Kimi Ordonez to make the save here. You had another instance at the beginning of the second half where Loudon has a breakaway. Bill doesn't necessarily make the save directly, but he comes out, makes it really tough for the Loudon attacker to find the right angle and finish. Like you're right. Bill had a really great game. Obviously, you want like a shutout to really talk about a goalkeeper having an incredible game. In this case, one of them was a penalty, and on the back end, he had no support from his squad in front of him to help stop that second goal that Loudon scored. I can point to like at least 3 other occasions in which Bill makes himself big, keeps us in this game, and keeps Loudon at 0 when they could have easily been at 2 or 3 before they actually get to the point where they score their first and second goal of the game. So ridiculously great game from Bill. Honestly, I didn't know he still had it in him. Like my personal thoughts when we make this trade for Bill Hamid is like, okay. Now I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, well, he clearly still has a lot of prime Bill Hamid left in him. You're asking if we can fix anything defensively significantly to the point where it makes a difference by the end of the season and hopefully into the playoffs. I'm not sure we do. I'm not sure we have any capacity to really make significant change. But the good news is you have a guy in the back in Bill Hamid that can seriously influence a game in the way he did against Loudon. There's been few games all year where I can point to a keeper performance from any of the Rowdies' 3 keepers this year that have kept the squad in the game as much as Bill on this one. So that's my long-winded way of saying at least it was a draw. Like it could have been a lot worse. It could have not only been a loss, but potentially a blowout. Like,
oh yeah.
It was tough for a little bit. That being said, you get into the second half, right? I'm just moving on here in my head in chronological order. Loudon still comes out really strong. They're playing great soccer at the beginning of the second half, and they played good soccer into the rest of the second half as well. It was a counterattack opportunity that we took advantage of. We are breaking out of Loudon's high press. Great just possession soccer that they've been playing all game. We finally string together a few passes in the back to try and, throw a ball over the top. Blake Bodley has his shining moment of the game. He didn't have a ton to write home about in this one, but this is one of the moments where you're like, okay, I'm glad I had Blake Bodley on the field because he's rapid. He's a good dribbler, and he gets the ball served into him from Basillas off of a little touch. When we had like 4 guys streaking on this counterattack down the field towards the Loudon goal, Blake is entirely through and then just tackled on what should have been a red card, in my opinion. Then we got our opening goal, right? That was obviously our biggest chance of the game up to that moment because it was a literal penalty. And then you get through, you get that goal, big moment, big shift in momentum in the game. I'm screaming, I'm saying goal really loud. If you go back and watch the highlight of that goal, you can hear me yelling goal really loud.
I'm wondering who that was.
If you listen to the next minute of the game there, you hear me solo singing the entire Rowdies Kick in the Grass song, which, again, it's not hard to get heard on the broadcast when there's only 2,000 people there. So that was fun. the next 30 minutes of this game is really fascinating to me, James, for a variety of reasons. Momentum shift. Rowdies are feeling pretty good because, we're getting these 3 points away from home. We're sneaking into the playoffs potentially. But you don't see a significant improvement in how we're actually playing the game itself, if that makes any sense. There wasn't a shift in how we were playing. We were still absorbing a lot of Loudon pressure. They were still creating a lot of great chances. Bill still had to make a couple big saves. And again, we got bailed out on several occasions here. Just the way this game was going, I felt like we were going to end up with 3 points because it just felt like one of those nights where if you're a Loudon United player, like the ball wasn't going in the net for you.
Yeah. Actually, that's looking back, you forget about that, but in the moment, there's definitely that. It's just one of those days kind of feelings.
Absolutely, and that I think I used that exact phrase when I was watching the game.
Yeah,
over at Segra Field. It's just not going in for Loudon today. It's not like we're going to get out of here with 3 points because the amount of chances they had, the crossbars, the Bill moments, it was, the Loudon squad was getting incredibly frustrated. This Farrow guy, the goalie for Loudon, oh my gosh, dude. I've never seen someone mouth off at a ref so often in a game and not get a yellow card. It was on another level. Like the whole squad was so ridiculously frustrated with every stoppage and play. Honestly, the Rowdies, I think we're doing a really great job of getting in their heads and absorbing, taking a lot of time off the clock with every, foul and injury, which is incredibly annoying if you're a fan of the other team. And then, eventually they get their goal, right? Everything changes, whatever. The last 10 minutes of this game, stoppage time, James, is ridiculous. Like I'm gonna throw this your way, right? What did you see that we did anything wrong here? I've been trying to figure out what happened, and I'm coming to two different conclusions. That one, we got tired because we only made 2 subs this entire game, and 2, eventually Loudon just broke through. I mean, with all the chances they had, it was kind of bound to happen at some point. So my thing is a combination of these 2 things, right? We got tired. There was 2 subs on this entire game. One of them was an attacking sub after Loudon got their second goal. And Loudon kept this pressure up for basically 90 minutes in this game. Did we do anything wrong here? Could we have done something better, particularly in stoppage time, or were the guys just exhausted?
I will definitely say that certain people were exhausted. You alluded to this earlier with Juana Sokar kind of falling on the player when he gave away the penalty in stoppage time of the second half. So if you look back, our right back options, I suppose, would have been Thomas Van Kaziel, or if you're sticking with people on the field, maybe Lawrence Wyke. I don't know. That's hard to say. So possibly I would say fatigue was an issue here, which is interesting because Loudon is always known as the more active of any team, of any game that they play, because they play that just a relentless press style. That's Loudon United. I think that we've seen that from when they were all 17 until now, when only a couple of them are 17, right? But yeah. So with that being said, Joey Skinner comes on for Paul Marie in the 77th, and then Loudon United are still down going into stoppage time. They make one more substitution where they bring off one of their center backs, Robbie Dambrot. Robbie Dambrot was the player we assumed would be coming back into the starting 11 if he was available when we were discussing this last week. So when he went off, Zach Ryan came on. Zach Ryan is one of their more regular attacking players, and in his place this week, Pedro Santos was starting. So one thing that I will point to, Zach Ryan obviously is going to have a lot more speed and a lot more energy in general over Pedro Santos. Pedro Santos is like 37 at this point.
Damn.
And I really don't like him as a player, but that's neither here nor there. I've said this previously, but Pedro Santos is a dick. So moving on from that, we are going to discuss, Zach Ryan as opposed to Pedro Santos. I think that if the players are getting used to those two, or one or the other of those options, obviously Zach Ryan offers something completely different because of his pace and his ability to be relentless. Just a lot more energy in his legs than Santos. So that's one thing, and I think that probably he was able to add to the usual Loudoun United playing style a lot more effectively than Pedro Santos as an attacking player, and maybe that put us under a lot more pressure. But at the same time, I think, in all honesty, Loudoun United is sometimes in games when it starts to get really late, you see the most direct play possible. Like Barcelona's down a man, they put Gerard Piqué up top. We've seen that. So, well, probably not too recently, I suppose. He retired whenever many years ago. But yeah, so that was something that we would see in the past. At a certain point, if you're down, you just need to start going all out attack as direct as possible. And I honestly think Loudoun just kind of thrive on that. Loudoun are perfectly happy, kick the ball up as close to the opposition corner flag as possible. And then when they go chase it down, guess what? You're right on their back with 2 or 3 players, in all honesty. So maybe that just had something to do with it. Loudoun United were playing their game all through the 80 minutes prior to this. And then they were like, all right, let's add Riley Bedoya for Kimi Ordonez, and then ultimately let's also add Zach Ryan to the field, and that just turned their high press into overdrive, and they were just going nuts with it. That's honestly the best way that I can think of it. I think that Loudoun is really happy to, like I said, just kick the ball and try and win the second ball. When you punt it up the field, the first person to head it, whether it's forward or backward, that's the first ball. And where it lands, that'll be the second ball. Loudoun United wants that, and they won it over and over and over in stoppage time. And obviously, a lot of our players didn't have the steam to keep up with them, I suppose. We have to keep in mind that a good number of them are over 30 at this point. Possibly that had something to do with it. And just like you said earlier, a lack of substitutions on our part might have also played a role. So those are two factors that might have helped Loudoun United, while they're also just doing their usual thing. And even before all of this, they had chance after chance after chance. They just couldn't put it away anyway. So it's a combination, I guess, of multiple factors that eventually Loudoun United, relentless as they are in all these different facets, they were gonna knock something into the net.
Yeah, you're right. Like it was relentless all game. They had a ton of possession, obviously, like you mentioned at the beginning. They had a ton of opportunities throughout this game, as we've talked about. Like this was an exhausting game from start to finish. I know that the bench situation is a little thin, right? There's not a ton of people we can turn to, but you mentioned Van Kaziel earlier. Like this is a game where Van Kaziel feels like you could have come in a bit earlier, shored up the back line just a little bit, and if nothing else, added just an energy boost needed to keep up with the speed of these Loudoun attackers who, embrace their youth and their speed and route one football, right? Just booting it up the field when you're down 1-0 in the 89th minute, which of course is how they got that penalty in the first place, right? We've talked about Asokar's, tumble. I think it's ridiculously frustrating to watch because it's just a moment where you have to kind of stay on your feet, right? Track back.
In all honesty, you say stay on your feet, just control your fall a little better, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like you see the effort to really get to that ball and knock it away, right? From who is this? Is that Zach Ryan? I think it's Ryan, who actually, takes the contact there. It's the most incredibly frustrating type of penalty because it wasn't even like he was going in for a tackle, going for the ball. He went for the header outside the box, and then his momentum carried him to stumble into the Loudoun attacker here, obviously conceding the penalty. Ridiculous way to concede the first goal of the night after everything that the Rowdies have absorbed, after all the opportunities that, Bill had saved, after all the opportunities that frankly Loudon just didn't capitalize on. Those two crossbars, right? I mean, Asokar actually almost had a chance to redeem himself right after, because he had a really interesting shot near post off of a looping ball that almost snuck through. You get to the second goal of the night for Loudon, 95th minute. The boys are clearly exhausted. This one is a frustrating one as well. If you go back and look at it, it's a corner kick, obviously. Guys unmarked. Was this a Sokar again? It might have just clicked in my head that I don't know whose guy this was, James. Arteaga, maybe?
I don't remember offhand.
Right? Like, here's the point. The point is, like, we've seen this lack of focus on the back end of the game. And again, in part, maybe, probably, likely because of fatigue, certainly playing a factor. But it's happened so many times throughout the season. It's so frustrating. You look back at some of these draws we've had, especially in the last month or so in particular, couple months. You're missing out on a lot of points that would have made this playoff chase a lot easier. You're turning a lot of 3-point performances, 3-point opportunities into 1-point opportunities. And for a moment in this game, you turned the 3-point opportunity into a 0-point game. You know what I mean? Joey Skinner comes in, saves the day. We get a point, which doesn't feel like much at this point, but I guess kind of keeps us in the mix. But that second goal really kind of just drained my energy while I was at the stadium. Is there anything to say about the second goal on your part, James? Was there any reason you can point to? It just feels like another moment of a lapse in concentration.
Lapse of concentration is about what I was going to say. It was us reacting too late to the ball that came in. Obviously, Bill Hamid even was one of those, but at this point, I'm not putting him on the hook for anything for all the stuff that he did prior. So, it's us being late to the play, and that's unfortunate given where it left us. But I mean, maybe that's some mental fortitude where you're just too tired to think in that moment.
Yeah, and it's something interesting too, because you've seen a lot of mental toughness from this squad throughout the year as well. You've seen a lot of coming back down from 1-0 and turning it into a 1-1 game, or 2-1 turning it into 2-2. You've seen several come up from behind victories. I want to say like the majority, and this is anecdotal. I'm not looking at the results or anything, but it feels like a lot of our wins have come from behind moments, right? And then when we get the lead, it's like we have the reverse reaction. Like, we can't really hold on to it all that often. I don't know. We can to talk about the bigger picture very briefly. There's 4 games left. We've talked about the lack of time to get the points, obviously, here that you need for the playoffs.
Yep.
The lack of time you have to actually institute significant change on the back line, or just collectively as a defensive unit. The good news is we have Paul Marie and we have Joey Skinner, who apparently is a god whenever he comes off the bench.
Yeah.
The bad news is the rest of the team, with the exception of maybe one guy who James and I are in agreement on, have just been consistently inconsistent. Mm-hmm. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah.
It sucks
because the only constant is change.
Exactly. It sucks because you look throughout the season, you see I can point to almost everyone on this roster having had a few moments of like, wow, like that's what we were looking for, like that's who we signed. And then you could point to several other moments for every other player and be like, well, we need a little bit more from you here. You need a little bit more from you there to hold on to those 3 points or get those 3 points. In this game, the easy scapegoat is a Wubens Pasillas, right? Who has had good moments, especially on the back end of the year here. He's scoring some good amount of goals. He's the leading scorer on the team. And then he gets these two, on a platter opportunities on the back end of the game. He does the hard part on the second opportunity. Like he fights for the chance, he creates a space and gets right in front of goal. And then I think maybe just lacks the composure on the back end to actually put it away, because he just kind of boots it at 100% power and hopes it like drives itself into the net. That was a tough watch for me. Watching it in person, like we get the Skinner goal. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't really mean much right now. But then the space opens up for Woobs and you're like, oh my God, like we're going to do it. We're going to get out of here with 3 points. And then snatched away from you twice. And again, like he did the hard work of creating the space for himself, but on the back end, just lacking a little bit of composure to actually put it away. So that's just kind of an example I'm pointing to of moments of, wow, like this is what we're looking for, but an equal amount, if not more moments of, man, like we needed a little bit more from you here. I'm pointing to Woobs here as an example, but again, that's applicable to almost everybody on this team.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I don't think we've seen a consistently good performance where I don't know how to describe this, James. I'm not sure we've seen one player have a completely good season. I'm not wording this correctly, but you get
we obviously can't apply that to the players who have just signed within like a month or two at this point. So if you look at everybody who's been here for, let's say, 6 months or just a longer period, I am generally in agreement with you on that as well. Manuel Arteaga did not start well. He has been good in the last couple of games, 3 games in a row with a goal. Yeah. That's obviously extremely positive. Woobs has been very hot and cold. We're going to get to him later on something else, but he obviously has good numbers overall, but it has been very hot and cold.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've talked about the defensive issues over and over. And I mean, the wingbacks are maybe one other spot, but honestly, those have changed. Let's talk about who was out there before. It was Pacific Nyongabire. Pacific Nyongabire was one of the wingbacks when we still had Cammy McPherson on this team. So, it's difficult even to say that that's been good. I mean, Blake Bodley has been, I think, probably the most consistent player, and consistently at a level. The only thing is I would say that right now, I don't know the last time he got an assist or something along those lines, but he hasn't been at a level that is getting us points. Let me put it that way. That is earning us goals that get us wins and earn us points.
Yeah. I think it's funny you point out the wingbacks in particular, because I feel like that's where you've seen just a dramatic, number of different people actually playing in that position.
Oh, tons. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned Nyongabire, which feels like last season at this point. It's annoying because we never actually figured out what his actual injury was. We just know he hasn't been obviously on the roster. There's been moments where, he's showing up on social media accounts, plural, of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And I'm like, oh, like he's coming back. He's going to be an incredible, last 20 minutes super sub that can win us some games, and just never materialized his return to the 11 or the 18, right? You had Van Kaziel playing at the right wing back spot on multiple occasions, actually a lot this year. Nick Moon playing at that right wing back spot whenever he's been healthy, coming off the bench. And now Juan Carlos Azócar, who I thought was a striker, was advertised to me as an attacking midfielder as well. Did not know he played this position. I don't know if he actually has played this, but maybe it's just kind of a necessity thing at this point, right? Because you look at the bench and the only other wingback you can pull onto the field right now is Joey Skinner, right? Who I guess came in this game for neither of the starting wingbacks. So it's been weird. On the left, like you said, Blake Bodley's been a more consistent name, if nothing else. Like he's just been on the field.
Yes, right.
Obviously, Joey Skinner has played a good amount of minutes in that spot as well, but that right wing back spot in particular has seen a really interesting amount of rotation. If you shift to the middle of the field too, James, I mean, you talked about Cammy McPherson. That feels like an eternity ago too. he started playing okay soccer like on the back end of his time with the Rowdies, and then he just did he get recalled? I forgot. Did he get sent to another team? I have no clue. I'm forgetting. He was on loan. I don't know if he got recalled by his squad. I want to say no, but
I don't remember offhand.
Yeah, and again, this feels like years ago at this point. It was just a few months. Mendez comes in. Crisostomo gets healthy again. Lewis Hilton has been on and off injured. We saw him for a few games throughout the year. Like, there's just been a ridiculous amount of rotation, whether it's the midfield, the right wing back spot, even in the back line. Like, we saw Van Casiel so often this year, and on the back end of the season, he's been kind of the off the bench sub on the back line. Lasso had a little injury for a little bit, and he's on the bench and comes back into the starting lineup. Castellanos seemed like a regular starter for the last 2 months, and all of a sudden he's been benched for 2 or 3 games in a row. So it's just I don't know. It's really interesting. I feel like it's been impossible to get a rhythm going. Every game feels a little bit different, right? And this game was one of them. I mean, I just don't know how you can put together a consistent performance when there's been just so much rotation. Even change, obviously, in the coaching staff, right? It's hard. It's been a weird season if we're talking about big picture, right? This was just another inconsistent performance. Characterizes the rest of the year.
Yep, absolutely. Carlos, is there anything else that we want to hit before we do the man of the match and then head into our preview?
No, I think we can jump into the man of the match. We talked about this game a little bit. Maybe a little bit too much. It was a crazy game, though. Merits some of our time on this podcast. And I think talks it kind of depicts a lot of what's happened this year, and I think what will happen for these last 4 games as well.
Yep.
James, I'm going to give you my man of the match. I think we're in agreement on this one. My man of the match was, of course, Alex Mendez, the recently signed Tampa Bay Rowdy, the formerly incredibly highly rated prospect at the U.S. youth national team level. I did not know he would have these types of performances in his bag. He's played really great soccer in just his first few games in the squad, and he's acclimated himself incredibly quickly. He's been a great addition to the squad. It's needed a bit of life in the attack, so he showed it on this game. Obviously, gets an assist in the Skinner goal. Didn't have to do a ton on that one, honestly, but he had a great game throughout this one. So definitely my man of the match.
Yeah, Alex Mendez is mine as well. As you said, he got the assist, but I think I think Joey Skinner had a lot more to do than maybe your typical assist on that one. So good for both of them. And I think that overall his game is what made me want to give it to Alex Mendez here. He is coming good, and I think that between him and Paul Marie, we have made some very good signings late in the season. Whether or not it's enough, obviously, I don't know. We're getting real close to crunch time, so we're gonna see. I don't know. I don't remember what everybody said before the season started, but I'm almost certain that John Morrissey, amongst others, had the Rowdies listed as a near 100% chance of making the playoffs. So if we don't, I mean, it's very unfortunate, but I really don't think it'll be down. It won't be down to the newest signings. Well, at least not Mendez and Marie, but it's unfortunate that we couldn't do better on the defensive side. And I guess that's actually true for a couple of games here. Anyway, let's move into our preview of this weekend's game. So this Saturday at El Lang at 7:30, the Rowdies host Monterey Bay. Obviously, these 3 points, we cannot keep saying it every week because eventually we're going to be mathematically eliminated. We're not right now, but these are 3 necessary points if we ever want to have a chance in 2025. If you put yourself in the playoffs, anything can happen. Everybody says that because it's largely true. I still don't know if our defense would hold up, but the point of it is these 3 points, this win it's an absolute must. It's an absolute must. So let's get into Monterey Bay. They are 10th in the West, just like us in the East. They have 28 points while we have 27. They just beat Sacramento for their first win since mid-July, specifically since July 11th. Please keep that in mind. That was their first win since July 11th. Now, Sacramento, pretty good team. They also played in Monterey Bay.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they are still playing on that crazy field. So, yeah, probably played some type of role there. While Sacramento are used to, a good normal grass pitch, something that is ideal here. Moving on with the next thing here. If we don't win this, the playoffs are almost certainly out. But I do think that this is a team that we can beat based on not only that form that I just mentioned, but also I think that this is generally a beatable team. They play in a 5-4-1 as before, or more generally a 4-4-2. So we might see one or the other. Nico Campusano is probably going to be in net behind right wing or right back Miles Lyons, Nico Gordon, Carlos Guzman, and Grant Robinson. Wesley Fonguk and Chabi Nalati were the most recent central midfielders. That has changed a lot, so they may not end up being the two central midfielders. But honestly, going back the last 5 games like I usually do, their central midfield has been different for just about every one of those. So we really can't say that any one or the other of this group of players is going to be starting in that group. On the wings, though, we are likely to see Johnny Klein and Adrian Rebollar. So those are 2 players that we can expect. While up top, it has also been a lot of flux. Tarek Scott came in on loan from FC Dallas. He has mostly been starting, so I can expect that he will start up top too in this one. However, the options around him have been pretty different. One of those could be Anton Horup, a Danish player who leads the team with 5 goals in the league. 4 players in the team have 4 goals each, so there is that. One of those, Elijah Paul, has 6 games over the course of the whole season, so that includes other competitions, not just the league, obviously. Anyway, Horup could start, Paul could start, another player could start, Pierce Galloway. There's a lot of different options, and in all honesty, I think Monterey Bay are in a bit of a situation themselves where they're trying to find out what their best starting 11 is. Maybe that sounds familiar to us here. Yeah. Robinson, their left back / left wing back, has 3 assists, all competitions, I believe. The point of this is they do not score a lot of goals and tend to concede a lot of goals too. So this is probably positive, obviously, for Rowdies players, Rowdies fans. I hope that we can get something out of this naturally. I don't want to continue to stress how important this game is, but that's where we are. Monterey Bay is ready to lose a game. At the same time, they're pretty close to the playoffs in all trying to be as technical as possible. They are closer than us, only by 1 point. And that's something that'll be on their minds too, but I really don't think that any of these players are feeling themselves, let's say. At least the Rowdies have some players who are very confident at the moment. It's not all of them. It's Manuel Arteaga. It's Paul Marie. It's Alex Mendez, I would probably say. And beyond that, it might be a little more up in the air. But there's something there. Those are our most important attacking players a lot of the time. So if we can sort out the back line just a little bit more, I really hope that this is the game that we can win. And we're going to see how that goes.
Yeah. You're right. They tend to concede a good amount of goals. They have the 3rd worst scoring numbers in the league, only ahead of Miami FC and then the last place Western Conference team, Las Vegas Lights, who, by the way, happen to play our direct competitor for the playoff spot, Rhode Island FC. If you want to add any more reason for why this game is ultra critical, it's because we need to stay within punching distance of these 8th and 9th place squads ahead of us. We need to make sure that Rhode Island doesn't pull away before our game against them next week.
Right.
If we want a chance at all here, right? Like I said, Rhode Island plays against an awful Las Vegas Lights team this week at home. They are almost certainly going to get 3 points. I hope Las Vegas Lights does everything in their power to make sure that doesn't happen. I would hope Raiko Arozarena, who I still believe plays out there, has the game of his life. and we have the game of our lives, and we can close the gap here and get within 3 points, ideally, before we play Rhode Island next week to set up a chance to overtake them. But again, I'm not sure how likely that is. Rhode Island is playing okay soccer. More importantly, Las Vegas is pretty bad. So they're probably going to get the 3 points. We need to keep 3 points here in our pocket to stay on pace with them, at least generally within the 5 points that we're currently make up the distance between us and the playoff spot. It's complicated, James. We have 4 games left. Like you said, there's not a ton of space to make any errors here.
There really is not.
We'll have to do something that we haven't done all year, which I said this last week and the week before, which is put together a couple wins in a row. You have to win these games at home. And then, well, I was going to say you have to win these games at home, and then you have to win against Rhode Island away, which means you have to win all 4 of these games, these last 4 games. It's what that feels like. I'm sure numerically there's a way where you don't have to actually win all 4. But if we don't get at least 3 of these wins here, you're going to need a lot of help from whoever's playing against the Indy 11s and the Rhode Islands and maybe even the Detroit cities of our conference. Yeah, it's going to be tough. This game itself, though, James, I hope it's not too tough. Monterey Bay, like you said, is not playing great soccer. The only time we've played against Monterey Bay at home was back in August of 2023, where we won by a comfortable score of 4-1. So let's hope history repeats itself on this occasion. Back then, it was Charlie Dennis, LaCava, J.J. Williams, and Ariel Martinez. That's a name. Who scored the 4 goals to win against Monterey Bay FC at home. I would love another 4-1 scoreline. We can jump into predictions in just a second. But, of course, like you said, I feel like this is a game that is winnable. And, of course, a game that is must win. If you want any chance at sneaking into the playoffs. I think pending the result against between Las Vegas and Rhode Island, I think a loss here or even a draw combined with a Rhode Island win against Las Vegas might not numerically or mathematically end our chances at the playoffs, but by all accounts, I feel like would end our chances at the playoffs. So, yeah, like we said,
how I feel.
No room for mistakes here, particularly against a pretty bad Monterey Bay squad. By the way, Ted Uncle refed that game. It's always fun when you can see like little bits of information from random games in that Monterey Bay game against the Rowdies back in August of 2023. Yeah, who knows? I love a 4-1 scoreline, James. Should we jump into predictions and maybe talk about whether that's actually going to be my prediction?
I'm ready for that.
I'm going to go ahead and say it's not going to be my prediction, but I'm going to be somewhat optimistic still and say we win a 3-1. You know what? Let's say we win 3-1. I like it. Like I said, I love a good, oh my God, I'm so tired, 4-1 result. But yeah, I think 3-1 is reasonable and very much possible here. We need our strikers to have consistently good games, especially with these last 4 games. Woobs, I need some composure in the finishing on the back end here. Let's make it happen. Let's get these 3 points and finish with a good 3 goals at home. And maybe a shutout. I would love a shutout. We haven't had one of those in a while.
That's
James,
true. We have not.
Tell me about your prediction.
Eureka has predicted a 2-1 win, while I have predicted a 2-0 win. So I have predicted the shutout. I wrote this one yesterday, but we'll see how that goes, obviously, because it's impossible to say that we are doing the best specifically at the back right now. But that's where we are. Extra time. Let's go into it. 2 things real fast before we get to the big news, I guess, actually. Maybe 2 big news and 1 small piece, but Gio Reyna has invested in Fort Lauderdale United, which I wrote with a question mark because that's just a little weird. Fort Lauderdale United, if anyone is unaware, they are currently playing a team in the USL Super League, and they plan on bringing a team, I believe, into USL League One next season. It might be the championship, but I'm almost certain it's League One. If Eureka has that in front of me, just let me know. But regardless, Fort Lauderdale United is trying to build up the professional game on the men's and women's side, and they are bringing in a lot of players as well for the academy side. So Carlos is back, but yes. So it's weird, but cool. I guess he joins Tyler Adams, Tim Weah, and Chris Richards as ownership members of ownership teams across the USL landscape. Yeah, don't know what to say. He's not exactly sure how that one happened, but good enough. We'll move to the next one. Rubens Passius has been called up for international duty, and he will, as long as nothing gets in the way, report for Haiti when they have their international games. These are, by the way, these are World Cup qualifiers coming up, not this weekend against Monterey Bay, but next weekend. That is when he would miss a game. There will probably be a game on Thursday of next week, and then the Tuesday following that. Yeah. I'm not sure, but I believe those are the dates. Either way, he's been called up for Haiti. I'm very excited that he was called up for Haiti. It's unfortunate, obviously, that it overlaps with such a crucial game for us, but that's what Team Depth is supposed to be for. We'll see if we have it.
Yeah. Unfortunate that our leading scorer on the season is not going to be here for what would probably be our most important game of the year if this weekend keeps us on pace. Obviously, he's had his hot and cold moments. He's been cold recently. So maybe, who knows, James, maybe a quick international trip can reignite the fire and the goal scoring, and he comes back and knocks 8 goals in the last 2 games. We'll see. Good luck to him. Always fun to see some green and gold presence in international soccer. We'll see what he can do over there. And we'll see what, I guess that Charlie Sharp can do in a full game for the Tampa Bay Rowdies when it comes to that game against Rhode Island. It'll be really interesting to see how that 11 is structured with Arteaga and another striker, or maybe Arteaga and Luis Alvarez kind of sitting in behind him. It'll be really interesting, James. If there's one thing we know is that we're used to change in the 11 at this point. So
yes,
I guess we're comfortable with that, but we'll see. Let's focus on this weekend first. James, I'll mention one more thing here. This was from the Tampa Bay Business Journal by Emma Behrman, September 30th, 2025. This morning, it looks like the $1.7 billion sale of the Tampa Bay Rays officially closed. Of course, being sold to the new ownership group headed by the Jacksonville home builder, Patrick Zalupski. No mention of the Rowdies in this article, a pretty big focus on the challenge of building a new stadium for the Rays. We're yet to see what that means for the Rowdies in the long term. But it does mean we officially have new owners, even though it hasn't been, I guess, widely publicized by the actual organizations themselves. So interesting, something to keep a close eye on as it develops and as we, get accustomed to our new ownership group. Who knows what that has in store for the front office, for the team staff, for the Rowdies outlook as a whole. Hopefully it's good things, but, in the world of lower league soccer, it just takes one bad owner or one owner who, in this case would treat the soccer club as an afterthought. Right. In the broader organization and the broader mission of building a baseball stadium for the baseball team, to really ruin things. So not to be pessimistic, but just cautiously moving ahead with our new ownership group. Rowdies fans, I think, should be particularly tuned in to what decisions are being made, what a new stadium is starting to look like, what that means for the Rowdies. I think it's important, especially, in the social media world where you have, at least in some sense, a little bit of a voice. I think it's important to keep the Rowdies name in the media cycle when we're talking about what this new ownership group means. So, James, we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, there's nothing else really we can say at the moment, but I guess we have new owners.
Yep. We will have to keep an eye. That's all we can do. All right, Carlos, anything else here?
I'm hungry. I have some frozen chicken tenders from Trader Joe's in the freezer. So
okay,
I think that's what's next. Or did you mean anything soccer related here?
Either way.
Cool. I'll let you know how it goes. But I have nothing else soccer related, so I guess we can start to close this up.
In that case, let's do so. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We obviously appreciate when you do. If you would like to get at us on social media, please feel free to do that by getting on our social media, wherever you are. I am mostly on Twitter at this point at RBLR James K. You can use the hashtag AskRBLR, or you can reach Carlos.
At Carlos TPA10 on Twitter. Give me a follow. Give James a follow. Let's talk Rowdies. And thanks for tuning in. It means a lot. I know this season has been more than rough, James. Your continued engagement with this podcast, with the club, means a ton. But of course, 4 games left. I think we can confidently say that the squad needs your support more than ever. So big stretch of games coming up. Let's see if we can make anything of what would otherwise feel like a wash of a season. Go out and support the guys, James.
If you don't have tickets, get tickets. That's the other thing that we should have said earlier. But yes.
Modern Era Night. We didn't mention it this weekend. We entirely forgot to mention. See, I got one more thing for you, James. I knew I was missing something. Like I said, it's Modern Era Night this weekend. It is a part of the continuing celebration of the Rowdies' 50th year anniversary. It'll include a special induction ceremony for Takuya Yamada to the 7510 Club, which of course is our sort of ring of honor in Al Lang Stadium. So he'll join the very exclusive club, the 7510 Club. Really, really cool to see another modern era Rowdy get his name painted into the 7510 Club. So go out and support the Rowdies this weekend, and of course what will be a big game, but to go celebrate Takuya Yamada's contributions to this club in his modern era times with the Rowdies, James.
There we go. All right. With that, I think we actually have covered everything because we did leave that out. But yes, thank you everyone for tuning in and sticking with us all the way through it. We will see you next week, hopefully with 3 more points. And we will see you hopefully on all the social medias. Wherever you are, we are there. Please join us, and we will get to have actual conversations when the Rowdies inevitably win and inevitably make the playoffs. That's what we're
win the whole thing. Win the whole thing.
On you, Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.